from a personal point of view, I've got a nice car, I've got a really nice house. The kids are so happy they have space. Quality, like we can eat our food to a dinner table. It's the little things.
So everything's transformed in like a 5-year period then. It's transformed you really from the business owner who does everything to someone with a deal maker investor mindset. You started off by starting a business pre-COVID. So tell us about that. Tell us why you started it and what happened next.
Yeah, sure. I think I've always wanted to have my own business, and I struggled in employment. I job hopped a little bit. I got made redundant a bunch of times, and I just never felt like I sort of played by the rules. I always wanted to do other things within the jobs that I was in. And because I worked mainly for large corporates, I was sort of pigeonholed into a role, and sort of my wings were
As an
clipped.
accountant?
Yeah, sure. As an accountant, yeah. So technical finance, first of all, and then kind of branched into a more commercial management accounting type role. So I was talking to the business quite a lot, but it was about the numbers. I wanted to do some more operational bits and pieces. And so probably throughout 2018 and 19, I kind of positioned myself to kind of have a business. So I think I set the business up in 2018, did nothing with it, still working full time. And then towards the end of 2019, I decided to do a few tax returns, some very, very small bits of work. And I think I got the confidence then that I invoiced somebody and they paid me, and then I did a bit of work. It was kind of that chain of events that kind of, I had the eureka moment. And then
That you could do this yourself.
yeah, I think I knew that I could do the technical work, but it was the point of having the confidence to go out there and say, I could do the technical work. Will you pay me to do some work? And so I did a couple of very, very small jobs around sort of Christmas 2019. And then at the beginning of 2020, I lost my job, which was my full-time job at the time. And we've never really had many savings as a family. We've always plowed it back into the house and the kids.
Sure.
And my wife was a stay-at-home mum at that point. She had been for about 10 years. And so we looked at the bank. We had about 2 months worth of cash to pay the mortgage and our bills. And I turned around to my wife and said, look, this is potentially a really good opportunity for me to, these 3 or 4 clients that I've got, if I can do it for 3 or 4 clients, why can't I do it for 30 or 40? And so we did some numbers. We realized my clients pay me on a monthly basis via direct debit. So we realized on an average fee basis, we needed about sort of 12, 15 clients paying me on that kind of basis to effectively pay the bills. And fortunately, from January to sort of early middle of March, we got to that target, and it was kind of, champagne and celebrations
Amazing.
in the house. Yeah, we felt really proud of kind of what we did in a relatively small amount of time. And then obviously COVID hit. And at that point, it was, are we going to lose everything that we've kind of built up?
Well, I mean, it sent a ripple through, all businesses, didn't it? Because suddenly the certainty that you might have had of the future just evaporated, and it was what is around the corner, what's going to happen next. And when your clients are other businesses, if their businesses are disrupted, it disrupts yours, doesn't it? How did we first meet? Probably online.
I think it was probably a week before I lost my job. So very early in January, I got a meeting with a guy called Andrew Scott that I know that you know
Yeah,
quite
so
well.
he's spoken at lots of our events over the years, yes.
Yeah, so he's quite a well-known entrepreneur in Western-super-Mare, where I'm from. And he humbled me and gave me a meeting. And I thought I was going to go into his boardroom for 10, 15 minutes for a chat. And he gave me a couple of hours. And I think that gave me quite a lot of inspiration in terms of his advice. And he was telling me kind of I was doing the right things in terms of what I wanted to do. And as a result of knowing him, I'd been reading Business Leader for Business Leader magazine for quite a while,
Which is the magazine he
owned at
owned,
the time.
yeah.
Yeah. And I just stumbled across an advert from yourself. I think it was one of your books that, and I literally just started the business. I had no kind of, I guess, idea about acquiring a business, but I was just trying to consume as much knowledge and entrepreneurial kind of learnings as I could. And so I just bought your book off that and sort of followed you ever since.
One thing led to another. So,
Yeah.
so growing a business organically, which is one customer at a time, you win a customer, you lose a customer, you win a few, have a great week, lose a few, have a terrible month. That's hard work, isn't it?
Yeah, especially during COVID, because I think, it was me at the time for the first 2 years at least. People coming to me, their finances were strapped because they may have been struggling during COVID. So, as probably most entrepreneurs with a startup do, they probably undersold themselves and they probably took on the wrong client. And I definitely did that multiple times. But we needed the client base to get the money
Sure.
to effectively, feed the family.
Your
And
survival. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, and kind of learning everything that was happening with COVID at the time as well. It was just a sort of a fight or flight mentality. And so, yeah, I would probably say like throughout maybe the first year, I was signing maybe a couple of clients a month. It wasn't like ridiculously fast growth, but it was enough for me to cope with. We were onboarding people in about sort of 1 or 2 months. And then by the time we'd onboarded them, we'd have another kind of cohort of new clients. So it was enough for me to be busy. And obviously, as I kind of stacked the client base, then our monthly recurring revenue increased, and we could then invest in things like technology, which made me work more efficiently. But yeah, it kind of got to the end of year two, and I think we got to about maybe 70 or 80 clients. I was turning over about 250,000. And I think it was at that point there that effectively, I needed help.
If you want to find out how to buy a business successfully, get your free business buying toolkit. The link is in the video description below.
I did a conference talk or something, and this guy spotted me, and he reached out on LinkedIn, sent me a LinkedIn message just asking for a half an hour Zoom call because he was struggling. And I said, fine, okay, cool. And we had that chat, and I gave him some bits and pieces of advice that I kind of learned along the way in the first couple of years. And then he went, and then this probably would have been in and around middle of 2021. And then a year later, he came back to say he tried what I'd asked or what I told him to try, and it just didn't work. And he wanted a career change, and he was working part-time. So he had a very, very small fee bank at the time. And he effectively asked if I was interested in acquiring his fee bank. And so I picked your book up. I read it again. And at that point, I think I attended one of your masterclass sessions,
Okay.
which was a virtual session. I thought, fantastic, this will give me a good framework to potentially then acquire this very, very small business.
Okay. And we spoke earlier, and it was a small business, wasn't it?
Yeah.
It was a micro business.
Yeah.
What did you learn about buying a micro business from that experience?
Crikey. I think I was fortunate at the time because we just had a new starter. So our third member of the team joined in the September, and we acquired this business towards the end of October. So I knew we had the capacity to service these clients. So as we were going through due diligence, we know what sort of services these clients were getting. And I think something that really kind of resonated with me was around things like maybe work in progress and things like some of the things that he was kind of recharging that we wouldn't necessarily need to through economies of scale. And in one of my previous jobs, I did a lot of work within M&A in the veterinary sector, but I kind of had some knowledge around acquisition budgets and sort of things to look out for in like adjusted EBITDA and things like that, and things that we could look at. And so I kind of just sort of pulled all that information together, and it was very, very quick kind of process. I think, he had a price in mind. I did some sums, showed him some workings, and we came to a very quick negotiation. I think he wanted to exit quite quickly. And in terms of the deal structure, we agreed half up front and then half after 12 months with clawback in as well in terms
Okay.
of clients being lost. And
And ultimately, was there any clawback?
there wasn't a huge amount. I mean, this was a business based in Bournemouth as well, so not local to me whatsoever. But I thought it gave me kind of, I guess, an idea about how an acquisition would look. Bearing in mind, up to this point, purely organic growth. I think at this point we were probably about £350,000 turnover with maybe about 110, 120 clients. And that pipeline wasn't really showing any sign of slowing down. So this was kind of a bit of a jolt in the arm, a little bit of a punch, shall we say, to say, well, can I do this as a process? And actually, if I can do it as a process, if I did a business that was 4 or 5x this current one that we're doing, then how would that work? And so
Yes.
from a process point of view,
So I guess it was proof of concept.
yes,
for you.
yeah,
It
absolutely.
proved to you that you could do it, proved that it was something that could be done, and you could see the impact on your existing business.
Yes, yeah. And go back to your original question, we did lose a few clients, but we've retained most of them and we still have them to this day. We've sold to the majority of them.
hmm
So from a fee perspective, we're not any worse off. In fact, we've probably earned more revenue from these clients. And it's the intangible aspects of these clients as well. So it's the Google reviews that they leave, it's the referrals that they give us. It's kind of all of that untapped potential that isn't necessarily on a deal sheet when you're dealing with a finite amount of clients. And I think that was quite interesting to kind of figure out as well along the way.
That's a good thing to say, actually, because it's not just about the money; it's about those intangible assets that come with the business, especially a service-based business like yours. So deal number one was very much proof of concept.
Yeah.
And I can see the accountant in you when let's test small and
Yeah.
see if it works. And then you went and did another one, but a lot bigger, didn't you?
Yes. So I was approached by someone at the tail end of 2023. They were looking to retire. And at this point, we were a team of 6 or 7, I think we were at this point.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we just done 2023, we just done about 550,000 turnover. So again, we've been growing quite aggressively from an organic point of view. And, kind of the branding was working well online. I was doing more stuff with the Value Pricing Academy. I was doing conference talks with the likes of ZeroCon. And so a lot of these things were kind of facilitating, almost being a key person of influence. And certainly locally, I do a lot of stuff with the college and the schools and all of that kind of activity amplified. And obviously, as you get a bigger client base, you naturally, hopefully, if you do good work, you get more referrals. And so we were noticing that actually the organic work, more of a proportion of that was being brought in by existing clients and not just through Facebook.
So
and LinkedIn.
it's success breeds success.
Yeah, exactly that.
And were you doing client work yourself at this point?
I was doing a very small amount. I think throughout 2022 and it was difficult to let go, as I'm sure many kind of startup entrepreneurs would say, but I had to let go because what's the point in hiring the people if you're going to continue to do the work? And it was the 5 or 10 minute tasks that would have been easy of me to have done myself, that I spent maybe 2 hours training somebody how to do. But these were tasks that were recurring every single day, every single week. Mm-hmm. And so the compounding effect of that meant that I could delegate a little bit more. That would increase their knowledge base. That would give them a bit more confidence. I trust them. And so by this point, end of 2023, I probably had maybe a dozen clients of the whatever sort of 150, 200 that we had. And it was kind of legacy stuff. It was like very, very small bits and pieces. It wasn't kind of huge workload. And yeah, so this person came to me at the end of sort of around Christmas 2023, wanted to retire. We just had a chat. She kind of detailed the clients. A lot of the systems they were using were similar to ours. There was a small team of 2 that were servicing the clients. One of them was a CTA, a chartered tax advisor. And I thought that'd be brilliant, because at this point everyone reported up to me. And so anything too technical for the guys at that
Mm-hmm.
point was just floating straight up to me. So I thought, brilliant. I could have this CTA in place. I could maybe create a sort of sub-layer, management layer within the team. And that would free me up even more. I could sort of pivot my role again. And that was it. We had some kind of discussions and some negotiations, and yeah, we did the deal in July 2024.
And from the very first conversation to completing, what was the time scale?
About 6 months.
Okay.
All
right.
About 6 months. I think
That's a little longer than average. Why would you say that?
I think that
was the length of time.
I think the challenge that we had was that it was originally a team of 4, and she was honest. She told me that she was over-resourced. I wouldn't need all 4 people. We had some existing resource in our existing team as it was. And so the plan was to potentially make 2 people redundant, and I would take the 2 people that she thought would be the best fit for us. And so there was a lot of legal discussions around 2P and the redundancies. And I think there was a little bit of confusion because partway through, one of the 2 potential people that were being made redundant actually handed in the notice voluntarily and left. And so that I didn't cause an additional challenge. We didn't use a solicitor at all for the first deal.
Oh, okay.
So we didn't do that at all, primarily because of the deal size.
Yeah, sure.
And just didn't feel it equitable. Yeah, so this was kind of my first dealing with a solicitor going through this process. And yeah, like I just thought that was kind of the normal time that it would take. I knew that there was some challenges around the 2P and some confusions. Whether that
people overcomplicate it. I mean, I'm the last person to ask about anything to do with HR, by the way. It's not my strength. I've done hundreds and hundreds of 2P transfers, and I can assure you, it is a lot more straightforward than people tell you that it is.
Yeah.
I think sometimes people have a vested interest in making it out to be more complicated than it needs to be in order to charge you the fees.
Yeah, I think the communication from my side was that they just wanted to protect me, and
Sure.
I didn't know anything different, let's say.
Absolutely, yeah.
And so with best intentions, I sort of agreed with whatever they said.
Okay.
So yeah, like roughly about 6 months it took.
Okay. But what impact did that have on your existing business doing that deal?
So From a numbers perspective, we acquired about 125 clients, I think. No, sorry, about 100 clients it was. It was about 125,000 in revenue. So we'd gone up from about 550 to sort of touching 700.
2 deals down, you've gone from 0, just an idea, to how many clients in total now?
I think after that July acquisition, we went to about 300 clients.
Got it. So if you were to just have grown organically, going out and winning the business yourself, do you think that the growth trajectory would have been the same?
Well, no, because we've been signing around 5 or 6 new clients every single month. And so, to get 100 clients.
So it's actually a year's worth of clients in a day.
Another vendor approached me. This one was much more local in town. And business was about 3 times the size, both in terms of clients and revenue. And I decided at the time that we could do both of these deals together. Now, what actually transpired is that we did that first one in July, and the second one actually went over the line in November for a variety of different reasons. And I was actually quite thankful that that happened, because considering the July one took a good kind of 2 to 3 months to really flesh out in terms of onboarding, just as we were getting over the crest of the hill of that one, then this other one came in November. And that was about 350 clients.
So you've actually done 3 deals?
Yes.
So what does the business look like now then in terms of number of clients?
A number of clients, about 600, roughly 650, and then about $1 million turnover.
Are you doing client work yourself?
No. So over the last year, I've kind of completely extricated myself from doing
And I've got to say, Neil, that is the biggest impact, right? Because now you can focus on the future and the growth strategy of the business and managing the management team, rather than when you first started. I think you said you were doing the VAT returns, you were looking after the website, you were doing everything yourself.
Yeah.
And it's transformed you really from the business owner who does everything to someone with a deal maker investor mindset.
Yeah, and I think this third acquisition that we did in November, that was kind of the real tipping point, because up to like early this year, it was still a flat structure. So we hadn't had the management team in place. Everyone reported into me still at that point. From a personal point of view, I've got a nice car, I've got a really nice house. The kids are so happy they have space. The quality, like we can eat our food to a dinner table. It's the little things.
So everything's transformed in like a 5-year period then.
Oh yeah,
2020.
Yeah.
Beginning of 2020 through to 25.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, from having 3 or 4 clients in January 2020 to where we are now. Yeah, completely different.
Amazing. What an incredible story. Neil, thank you so much for coming in.
Thank you.
I'd love to get you back and talk about these deals some more. So till next time, thank you very much.
Thank you.